brand new product and I'm super excited about it. It's available, it's tried, it's tested, it's palatable, and it's called DAC Metabolic. And if you don't like the color, I chose it, so you'll have to, you should like it. I love the color. We went through the catalog and it wasn't a color that we saw anywhere else. So it's this beautiful Pepto-Bismol pink. And what does this product do? Well, it supports glucose metabolism by helping maintain blood glucose within a normal range. I mean, what does that really mean? Again, we are under the umbrella of NASC, so we have to be very cautious about what we say, and we can't make outrageous statements, but the product is chromium and magnesium. And these two ingredients have been proven, have been researched to help with glucose and insulin metabolism. You know, chromium works in two different groups of horses. It will work in a healthy horse with performance, but it will also work in that unhealthy horse to help upregulate the moving of glucose and help those insulin resistant horses. So for a long time, people have asked, do we have anything for horses with insulin resistance? Do we have anything for horses with metabolic syndrome? Do we have anything for horses with crusty neck? Do we have anything for horses with obesity? And no, we haven't, because to date, the chromium supplements that were available didn't work. The different combinations of herbs didn't work. There is absolutely not enough scientific research for me to put my name and DAC's name behind a supplement that would actually carry some weight in this field. But absolutely now I believe that there is. And so it's a 2 ounce a day supplement. What's going to set this apart from any other supplement in this category is we don't use a grain carrier. There is no sugars and starches in this product at all. It's very palatable. We've trialed it in 3 different trial settings, getting horses to eat it, and it's absolutely palatable. We've had no problems with horses eating it. It's a small pellet, just like the Cool Gut, because based on what you guys said, you like to have the little pellet because it's easier to mix into the feed and it doesn't sift out. So it's the same little micro pellet. It's magnesium citrate is one of the forms of magnesium that we're using, and the magnesium citrate is the most bioavailable and effective source of magnesium on the market. There are other forms of magnesium, and we do have a little magnesium oxide in here, but the magnesium citrate, again, sets it apart because it's really, really bioavailable. And then that chemtrace chromium that we used prior in the performance supplements, but here that chromium is going to have a different effect. This chemtrace chromium is the first product of its kind on the market. There's 20 years of research. There's 50 peer-reviewed research studies registered in over 35 countries. Kicker, it is manufactured in America and sourced from US-based raw ingredients. And you have all seen how absolutely critical that is this year. It's very bioavailable. It improves that glucose utilization and immune function, and it's the only FDA-approved chromium use for horses. So let's really quickly go through how on earth does all this fit together? How is chromium going to fit into this picture? I made this picture because I'm very visual. So you put a key into a lock, and that door lock is going to open the door, right? And the person going through the door is glucose. The door is the glucose receptor that we were talking about. The key is insulin, and the door lock is the insulin receptor. So in order to get it all to work, you got to take insulin, you got to put it in the insulin receptor, and then you got to open the door, and then the glucose has got to walk through the door. Well, that's how it works perfectly. But unfortunately, in a horse that has insulin resistance because it's fat or it's old or it's got all these other issues, is the lock is broken. They got all this insulin floating around. The insulin function is working. It's it's being released, but it can't go anywhere. So if the key's broken, you got all these keys hanging out outside the door and all these people hanging outside your door because it can't go through the door. So that's why your vet will come and do a blood glucose and insulin test, and they'll see, well, they got really high insulin, they got really high glucose because it's got nowhere to go because it can't go through the door. You're going to see, so we'll see elevated blood glucose, elevated insulin. Sometimes they're eating a lot, eating too much. They gain a lot of weight, but they gain weird weight in the fat depots on the crest and the back and the tail head. They get really lethargic. Sometimes they can get, weird rain rot gets really exaggerated. They get scratches because also being fat and having insulin resistance causes chronic inflammation. And worst case scenario, all of this leads to laminitis. Click. Oops. I want to really quickly show you a little video because this is going to help you understand how it all works. And hopefully you should be able to hear this. It's very quick and bear with us.
Animal nutritionists formulate diets to provide carbohydrates as an energy source for livestock. Using different digestive processes, cows and pigs convert these carbohydrates into glucose, which is ultimately released into the bloodstream. Once in the bloodstream, glucose can reach different organs in the body. When the blood reaches the animal's pancreas, beta cells inside the pancreas detect the rising glucose levels. To reduce the glucose level, beta cells release insulin into the bloodstream. As blood circulates through the animal, insulin and glucose exit the bloodstream into tissues to reach the animal's cells. Many of the animal's cells have specific receptors on their surfaces that bind to the circulating insulin. Insulin acts like a key in a lock to open the cell by activating glucose transporters so that the circulating glucose can get inside the cell. The dietary trace element, chromium, is necessary to optimize the activation of the insulin receptor so that more glucose can get into the cell. A maximum of 4 chromium molecules may bind to one insulin receptor, which can lead to an 8-fold difference in insulin receptor activation. Adding supplemental chemtrace chromium propionate to the diet provides the additional chromium for insulin receptor activation. Chromium enhances this reaction, causing glucose transporter activation, allowing additional glucose to enter the cell. The additional glucose will allow for more energy to be available for proper cell function. Proper functioning cells can lead to a healthier, more productive animal.
Awesome. So to recap that, and hopefully you could all hear that, insulin is really important. But in a horse that's got insulin resistance or metabolically challenged, the insulin receptor is broken. So if we can feed chromium, it attaches to those insulin receptors and it helps to upregulate or fix them per se. It doesn't mean that we can go and feed our horses hugely high carbohydrate diets, but it just means that glucose and insulin is not going to be floating around in the blood, and glucose can go into the cell and it can be used for to immune function and health and performance. And it's certainly in a horse with insulin resistance. I've had this question, well, is it going to make him go faster? No, it's not going to make him go faster because this is an unhealthy horse. It's going to help get glucose into the cell so that he can use it to get healthier. So I think that this is just a huge game changer. So the insulin unlocks the door to the cell so that blood glucose can be used for energy. Chromium allows more doors to open, really, by increasing insulin receptor activation. And we know that glucose, it's not just used to give the horse more energy to go faster. Energy is used in every function in your body. and you need it for brain function, for immune function, for just overall health, growth, performance, everything. So we really need to get it in there. We also know that stressed horses, whether they're exercising or whether they have metabolic syndrome, which means they're stressed, stress releases cortisol. Cortisol triggers glucose to be shunted away from health and well-being and shunted over to decrease that stress and decrease that cortisol. So if we have more glucose available, then we can deal with the stress, the cortisol, and we can also keep using it for immune function, etc. And we're not siphoning it away from where it needs to be used. Now, the question is, well, what does it compare to? That's always the question I get. These are just a few products that are currently on the market that if somebody is feeding and they want to try, they want to stay in the DAC family, these would be some products that are in that same category. I'm not going to say that they're exactly the same because the DAC products using the magnesium citrate, which there was a question, will it cause diarrhea in horses? And no, it won't, because we're really using such small quantities, just enough to help with metabolic function and not cause any digestive upset. So great question, but no, it will not cause diarrhea. But it's magnesium and chromium. It's super, super simple. There's not a bunch of weird herbs that don't do anything because there's no scientific research behind any of those. But these would be products that sit in the same category. So this is the ad that will be circulated. It's currently available. It is in the warehouse. We're going to be, you can order it now, and I just got an update from Tina that we're having special webinar pricing. Contact your territory manager or the person that invited you to get the prices and place your orders. All orders must be placed and paid for by 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think that's tomorrow. Tina, if you could just update me on that. But I think by 4:30 tomorrow, that's Friday. Yes, we need those orders in. And if you order the DAC Metabolic tomorrow, next week, late next week, it will ship out. We've got labels in, and we really seem to actually be on the ball for this one. But obesity, crusty neck, sugar sensitivities, metabolic syndrome, all the things that we talked about are going to be benefited. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to take your horse off medications, but it's going to support them. So if you have horses and you're worried about adding this to your program and you're working with a veterinarian, you know that you can always get your veterinarian to contact me and we can kind of work as a team to handle this. Now, we really are at the end. We have gone through 2020 like a bat out of hell, but I'm so excited that so many people got on, and I'll take any questions.